All right, welcome back. It's about 23 minutes past the top of the hour. Time now to begin our discussion tonight. And Kimani, Ichung'wah, the majority leader in the National Assembly, now joins us. Thank you so much for coming. Unajua interview nimetafuta sana. 1 year. Unaniambia tu Ken, I will come. It's 1 year actually.
5-6 months.
Lakini since the
from October, November last year.
Ndio nilianza kutafuta. But thank you so much for coming. A lot of issues to discuss tonight. And first off on the table, there's this bill, Finance Bill 2023-2024, already even before it's debated, is tabled on the floor, it's causing ripples. I mean, Kenyans are already expressing themselves. From where you sit, because this is going to come to Parliament, why is it so divisive at this point? And what can we do to cure this issue?
Well, it's not going to come to Parliament. It's already in Parliament. The bill has already been published. We did the first reading on Monday during the special sitting in the morning. And already committed to the Committee for Finance. And I think by today, if they haven't, maybe latest tomorrow, they should have advertised for public participation.
They have advertised for public participation. But you know,
that's why the discourse, and that's part and parcel for democracy. And I think, you know, since our 2010 Constitution, public participation became an integral part of lawmaking. And the finance bill is part of that lawmaking process. And therefore, the discourse you hear is very healthy for Kenyans, it's very healthy for government, and very healthy.
But does it matter?
More healthy for the legislature, especially because as the people's representatives, we have to listen to what the people are saying. And why bills are published and thrown first to the members of the public to have that discourse through public participation is to give Kenyans a time and space to express themselves. And also give parliamentarians an opportunity to get to know the real feelings and the feedback they will get from the people.
So it matters that it goes for public participation?
It matters.
It matters that it's published?
Oh yes, oh yes.
The reason
if it didn't matter, then you just publish, debate, pass it into law.
You're complying with the Constitution. I'm going to come to aspects where we've seen bills come before Parliament, and the record 3 days they have been passed into law. I'm going to talk about it.
Never
Housing
happened.
Bill, for example. I sat here with Otiende Amolo, but I'm going to talk about that. But let me ask you. I know you'll disagree because you sit in Parliament.
It's not practical, by the way. I'm not saying. I'm not just saying it never happens. It is not practical to publish a bill and pass it within 3 days.
It's not possible.
Practically,
push through.
Practically impossible.
Because
you minimum, at least for the National Assembly, and there are court rulings that have set precedents on it. Public participation actually is an integral part of our lawmaking process today, since 2010, after the 2010 Constitution. I think way back in 2014 or 2015, there was a court ruling that at least there must be public participation for a minimum, or at least of 7 days. And every bill that you will see in the National Assembly, or the one that emanates from the National Assembly, public participation ought to have been done for 7 days. Publication period usually is 14 days.
14 days. I'll ask you how long the affordable housing bill took before it went before the president for assent.
Or between adoption and assent?
Yes.
That should even, if it were possible, by the way, to finish with the bill on a Thursday evening, have the vellums ready, but the government printer have their own challenges with the production of the vellum paper that the president signs on, and the one they reproduce the last bill, the act on. If it were practical to publish it, to do it within half a night, then you could finish a bill on Thursday evening, and it's a certain day to law Friday morning.
It's fairly legal, regardless of the time. It's fairly legal.
No, nothing illegal.
Nothing illegal.
So
we're going to talk about that.
Parliament has finished its work.
Yes.
Then the rest of the work is the president's, and it's up to him to decide when the bill is taken to him.
I'm going to talk about that.
He has 14 days to assent or not to assent.
I'm going to talk about that because there was debate that was brought before the floor of the House the last time, just before it was passed. And a lot of members of Parliament complained about even being given opportunities to ventilate on the bill, and they claimed it was rushed. I'm going to talk about that, but let me take you back. The reason why I said it's going to come before Parliament.
Claimed. Always claims.
But they spoke on the floor of the House, and they resisted how rushed the Speaker was doing this.
Politics.
I'm going to come to that. I'm going to come to that. This publication on the floor on Monday, was it timed to coincide with the deposition of the impeachment motion? Because it got lost somewhere, Ichung'wah.
Well, let me tell you, the first reading of a bill is just the clerk at the clerk's table who stands up and says, first reading of the finance bill of 2024-2025. First reading. Just
That's it.
That's it.
And it got lost somewhere. If you ask a lot of people, our minds were somewhere else.
Well, the first reading of a bill really is a procedural matter for Parliament.
Okay.
What should matter to Kenyans and to any person who wants to follow what is happening with a particular bill is what happens after the first reading, actually after that newspaper advertisement for public participation. The bill now will be published. I'm certain it's there on the parliamentary website. You can access it. If you need a hard copy, you can walk to Parliament. Parliament is an open place. Walk to room 8, pick a copy of the bill, go read it against the acts of Parliament that it seeks to amend.
You cannot just gain access to Parliament, but...
Well, if you need a bill, they will advise you at the gate.
How to get it.
How to get it. Yeah. Because even if you are not able to access room 8, there's a library across on the other side of Parliament.
That is accessible for...
In the new building. Okay. It's accessible. You can... Anyway, in this day and age, you don't even need a hard copy of a bill because you can access it online on the parliamentary website. Once that has been done now, the most important thing is the public participation period. And I think for finance bill, ordinary will do between 7 and 14 days public participation. That is the most critical thing for Kenyans to follow. And that's why I told you the discourse that is going on now is very healthy and very important, even to us as parliamentarians.
The question is,
the time I take
to Kenyans? Do you listen to what
I am from my constituency today.
Yes.
And
what did they tell you about what the president said first, about 14 to 22?
14 to 22 or what?
He said the taxes will increase by between 14% to 22%.
No, probably you're speaking about the contribution of our tax revenue as a percentage of GDP.
That's what he meant?
From 14, you're at an average of 14%.
Yes, to 22. Which means it's an increase with about...
France is at 43.
8. We're not first one.
And you're not doing it. You are not doing it in a year. It never happens in a year. You can't do it even in 2 years. Probably three to 4 years.
Yes.
And increasing your revenue as a percentage of your GDP is not an event, my good friend Ken. What you need to do is institute tax measures that will help you to collect more revenue. That necessarily does not mean increasing the tax percentages that you are paying. So when the president tells you that we need to move our tax as a contribution as a percent of GDP from 14 to 22, it doesn't mean that if you are paying 14%, you now pay 22%. No. It means you need to bring in more Kenyans in the tax net because there are very many Kenyans
who are not paying tax.
Who are not paying taxes. You just need to bring more people who are not contributing to our nation, our economic growth by contributing to taxes. You bring them into the tax-paying bracket.
To increase
that way, you increase the quantum of taxes that you are collecting as a percentage of your GDP.
Leader, does it also mean that the president introduces a few, and we can mention them from the finance bill that was published just the other day, we can mention a few of the areas that there's additional tax that is being asked from the taxpayer. I know the other day he sat down with Central Bank and some other stakeholders and said, which means he's also concerned that there are a number of areas that the taxman is asking us.
I've only heard about that from the media.
No, the president...
I never had any, and I've not seen any official communication, so I would rather not comment on what I hear on the media. But I'll give you my personal view on it, on the tax on bread.
Yes.
And it's my own personal view. It doesn't have to be any other person's position other than my own. If you look at our tax expenditure, Ken, and this is empirical evidence that is there from KRA, our tax expenditure in this country is so high, principally because of two products. And tax expenditure, I mean, like for VAT, the amount of money government pays out to traders, not to you and me as a consumer.
To traders.
To traders. To the people who manufacture bread, people who manufacture or who process milk. Milk and bread are the two products that have the highest tax expenditure.
And they are the most consumed.
95% of tax refunds on VAT
goes to bread and milk.
Goes to bread and milk.
But they are also the highest
Ken,
consumed in the country. That's everyone's breakfast.
You and me buy milk
yes.
and bread from the supermarket next to your house or somewhere. Your mother in the village and my mother in the village. I don't think my mother buys bread. Whenever I visit her house, I find her with ngwashe and domas. And I'm certain at times when I go to her house, I have tea and a slice of ugali. We are basically subsidizing life for the middle class, well-to-do Kenyans. And I told you that's my own personal view because I belong to that class of Kenyans, that middle class. And we are getting tax refunds on consumables or consumer items that are being consumed by the middle class Kenyans at the expense of the poor folk up country who have their breakfast of tea, ndoma, and ngwashe and ugali, who buy milk from their next door neighbor.
Or milk from their gardens.
Or milk from their farm. It's me and you who buy processed milk.
Okay.
So
in your view, in a nutshell.
If you ask me, by the way,
yes.
and I don't know what the president's view has been because I've only heard it in the media that the president in some meeting
said reconsider this.
Is reported to have said something about it. I would respectfully disagree with the president on that particular point.
Okay.
And I would have urged him to reduce that particular tax expenditure. I would rather even we reduce that tax expenditure. And again, this is my own personal view, not the views of the National Treasury or anybody in government. And I say that now as an accountant. If you were to ask me if we were to reduce even the standard VAT rate from 16% to about 15%, then do away with all the tax exemptions on VAT and zero-rated items, we would collect more money.
We'll collect more money. A good idea, and I have a lot to talk to you about tonight. But first, we have to pay the bills. Kimani Ichung'wah remains with us. We have a lot to discuss tonight, and we'll go back right where we're stopping. First, we take